Hi everyone, I'm Heather from Grounded Approach. I'm a nutritionist and a GAPS practitioner, and today is part 2 of histamine intolerance and how to heal and recover from it. I really wanted to make these videos because I see a lot of people selling products or books or all these things, and the focus is really like managing histamine intolerance by having a certain diet forever, and some of it's like, oh, it's your genetics, and it's kind of this mentality that it can't be repaired. And I just don't buy into that because I've seen my husband's histamine intolerance get healed, countless clients. I've read about it in the GAPS book. The science and the studies that I've read line up perfectly with it, and it works. So I'm not selling you anything. I don't have any special probiotics or things that I want you to take. This is actually so you can heal your histamine intolerance, because I've also realized so many people have it, and it's one of those things where if you don't address it, where you just take antihistamines or DAO or something like that without solving the root problem, which is your gut, we'll get into that, you're just on these supplements for life. And I don't think that's any better than being on medication. And then your body gets worse, like it just progresses and gets worse and worse and worse. So it's really important, if you can and you're willing, to heal it by healing the gut. My last video kind of talks about trying to convince you of why it is a gut issue and why histamine isn't the problem, it's actually your gut. And so by healing the gut, we no longer have a reason for your body to be creating and releasing so much histamine, so it just naturally calms down. It's solving the root problem. So how do we do that? How do we heal the gut? The first thing, if you want to heal your gut, you need to get the GAPS book, Gut and Physiology Syndrome. This has a few pages on histamine intolerance, but it has a ton of information on the beginning about what your gut is comprised of and leaky gut, and how histamine intolerance comes, and food allergies and your immune system and everything. It really links it together beautifully. So if you're a science nerd or you're feeling committed, get the book. But in regards to histamine intolerance and healing the gut, you really need to heal the gut lining. And that's what the GAPS book, written by Dr. Natasha McBride, addresses. It heals the gut lining so we no longer have allergies and these crazy immune system responses that keep us bound by what we can eat and what we can't do in our life. So if you have histamine intolerance and you're wanting to heal it, just gonna be straight up, you need to do the GAPS introduction diet. So the GAPS diet there's the full GAPS diet, and then there's the GAPS intro. And the intro is 6 stages. Now I have some videos on that if you wanna go and look through that as well. But GAPS intro is kind of like the very intense part. The full GAPS diet, you can eat a lot more foods, it's really free. Where intro it really pulls it down to a few foods. You're eating a ton of meat stock, a ton of the foods that heal and seal your gut lining, that mucosal membrane, and stop these allergic responses. They stop your IgE immune responses, and that is what you need to do. Seriously, you gotta do that if you wanna fix histamine intolerance. Now, if you want, and you're very severe, some people have really severe histamine intolerance, you may wanna do the GAPS intro and temporarily do a low histamine version of that, meaning you're not eating a lot of high histamine foods on there. So maybe like fish, or some of the meats that you react to, or fermented foods. You might want to keep those down initially, and then once your body calms down a bit, you can start gradually introducing those. Because it is such a big shift when you move into the GAPS diet, you can feel really terrible. I have videos on all of that if you're interested. But GAPS intro is really where you want to be. I work with a lot of clients who are like doing the GAPS diet to heal histamine intolerance, and they're confused, and they're like, I'm not really seeing progress, and it's because they're on the full GAPS diet and they need to do intro. Now, when you're doing the introduction diet, you want to be very slow with introducing your probiotic foods. So you're not going to start with meat stock and like 3 tablespoons of sauerkraut, even if that's what you were doing before and feeling okay. Don't do it. Start crazy slow, 1 drop, 2 drops, very slowly increase. Monitor reactions, and eventually you'll be able to have those foods, and the more you have, the more it builds up your gut bacteria and kills a lot of the pathogens that are creating histamine. So not only is your body releasing histamines as a response to infections or tissue repair or allergens, it also, you have gut bacteria, you have some good and some that can overgrow. Things like candida, almost everyone has an overgrowth of candida, and it releases acetaldehyde, which causes histamine. So a lot of our gut bacteria is releasing that histamine. So the more you go through GAPS and the more those fermented foods you can increase, the more beneficial bacteria you're gonna get in there that's gonna kill off the candida and release your decrease your histamine even more. So it really is like there's a whole community changing in there. and it's not super straightforward. It can feel a bit confusing and crazy. And then of course, when you're doing the GAPS intro diet, you want to be having at least 5 cups of meat stock a day for an adult, 3 cups for children. And that's not bone broth, that's meat stock. So all of that, like the difference is in here, but meat stock is basically, rather than taking old bones and cooking them for 24 hours, you're getting fresh carcass or a whole chicken or chicken feet that haven't been previously cooked, and you're cooking it for a short amount of time. So rather than getting the bones broken down, it's more getting the collagen and the skin and the connective tissue and all of that. And that is the sticky glue substance that heals your gut lining. Okay, so that is what you're gonna do. If you really are set on healing your histamine intolerance, you don't wanna just be taking pills and be restricted and be miserable and like, you can never drink again. Now I will say for healing histamine intolerance, often people will find a pretty quick benefit from it. And then sometimes they'll go back to like eating differently, but you wanna stay on GAPS for around 2 years because that's gonna really give your body enough time to heal the lining and seal it. So sealing means we're back to it being super healthy. It's not able to be penetrated. And it's really just giving your body enough time to fully restore itself. And eventually you should be able to go back to a lot of eating other foods like grains properly prepared and legumes and different types of sugar, maple syrup, maybe milk, all that. That's the goal. But yeah, initially you're gonna wanna do GAPS for a bit of time, around 2 years, to really make sure that histamine intolerance is gone for good and your microbiome is up to tip-top shape. So if this is helpful, I'd love if you share, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, whatever you can do to help the channel out, because I really enjoy making these videos and I hope they benefit you. Thanks for watching.